Welcome to Unlock Your First Six Figures Morning Show. I am your host, Shay Cannon. I'm an award-winning, y'all see these uplighting? What Dr. Tachi when you need them? Award-winning fractional chief operating officer to an exclusive clientele of 6 and 7 figure CEOs. However, I have a mission, and that mission includes you, entrepreneurs and small business owners who are spinning their wheels and struggling to get to your first 6 figures in business. I want to show you how to make the money and create time freedom. That's make the money and create time freedom. My freedom looks like living and working my business from anywhere in the world. I'll spare you the 5-year journey, but just know I'm currently living my best life and working my best business in Mexico. Okay. So let's get to it, y'all, because we like a day late, but we are not a dollar short. Okay. So we're going to do part 1 and part 2 today. It all starts with the blog. The blog for this week is at shaycannon.com/graduate. Okay. Graduate. Because what we're talking about this week is we're talking about small business growth stages and how to graduate to the next stage. Okay. So you're going to recognize by the descriptions where you are, and you're going to listen closely to where you need to be and how to get there. Okay. So Heather Demetra is over here talking about Heather is ready for the pool, the beach and the pool already. Heather been on the rooftop working out while I was over there at the pool going live. She was over there working with dumbbells. I wanted to throw something at her because why was she in front of me, distracting me during my time? Why is you on the rooftop when I'm on the rooftop? I felt like, what was that, Friday? Why are you in the refrigerator? Every time I come in the kitchen, you in the kitchen. But don't worry about it. Anyway, so small business growth stages and how to graduate to the next stage. Now, I think that this is a very important conversation, right? Because sometimes we don't even recognize what stage we're in. We don't recognize that something is a recurring thing as an obstacle. And so therefore, we don't take the time to see how do we get out of this cycle and out of this stage to get to the next stage, right? So there are stages to small business growth. You can go from one stage to the next stage quickly or slowly, but you are sure to go through all of them. Okay. Especially if you are an entrepreneur with little to no capital. All right. Good morning, Keith, over here on the Facebook side. Corporations come into business with business plans and capital to start hiring. And most of the time, they're hiring from the top down. So they already have their leadership in place before they get their workers and their doers, right? So we don't have that luxury. Okay. We just don't. Most of us, we don't even have a budget at all. We don't have capital at all. We're kind of what they call it, pulling it out the mud around this mug, right? So let's talk about the growth stages, what it looks like to be in them, and how to get out of them to get to the next one. All right. Now, the first stage is transactional. I feel like everybody here is out of that stage, but listen anyway, because it might be some elements of it that still got you in a chokehold. So listen in anyway. The transactional stage is where you get an idea, okay? And you start to follow that idea and start to sell to people. Or some of y'all didn't even come up with the idea to start selling to somebody. You just had something good that people were willing to buy, and you just found yourself selling to people, okay? Either way, it's like that beginning stage. So everything is transactional. You have something and you're giving it away for some money, right? Well, I shouldn't say giving it away for some money. You're trading it for money, okay? Now, this stage is all about moving from ideation to accepting money to make it a transaction. That's why I call it a transactional stage, okay? Now, the problem is that past mom and them and your immediate circle, you don't really have no clients and customers. And what we know about mom and them buying, if they buy at all, they not going to keep buying, okay? So you don't really feel like you got a business. So what you now understand is it feels good and it feels like you have a bright, future in this entrepreneurial thing, but you need more people to sell to, right? So the bubble of new business has burst and you don't know how to keep people buying. That is the problem, okay? You are hurled out of the fantasy and into the truth that you need to find clients outside of your close connections, okay? Now, at the end of each of these sections, I broke it down in the blog so that you wouldn't miss anything, okay? The key characteristics of this transactional phase is that you have initial excitement and some support from close connections, and you get that crucial proof of concept, right? Possibly to a familiar market. Now, the challenge is you understand that outside of friends and family, that you cannot sustain a business long term, okay? So the strategy for advancement, how you get to the next phase is you start to find more people outside of your immediate circle to buy from you. Most of us, we leverage social media, we start networking, we start doing word of mouth, okay, to reach a broader audience. Now, all of that was the first phase, transactional. I know all of you here in studio recognize that phase. I know Demetra and Keith over there on the Facebook side recognizes that phase, right? We all go through it when we first start. None of us in this sphere, right? Nobody touching me right now started with this big capital loan and this huge business plan, right? None of us started with that. We started with something that could sell and people were buying it. Transactional. Okay, that's why I named that phase that. So that's part one. Okay, y'all should recognize that phase, but you should not really identify with still being there fully. Okay, now let's go to the second phase. Keith said right. Okay, the second phase is what I call the survival phase, right? Because the minute that you recognize in the transactional phase that you need more people, you go about trying to find more people. You're trying to help your business to survive, okay? So this phase usually includes two things, okay? And that is number one, you recognize that and you start stopping all that extra stuff you used to be doing to make your offer attractive, right? Because when we're doing stuff as a hobby, when we're doing stuff to do stuff, when we're doing stuff for people and we happen to get money for it, we're not looking at being profitable, right? But what you recognize now is, oh, I can't always do this like this if I actually want to make money. So this is when you start doing stuff like recognizing when you're spending too much money on the offer and looking at what you're spending versus what you're selling it for. Okay. Good morning, Shawana. So now you recognize that the expense is high and the profit margin is low. Okay, so you start doing stuff like, oh, that expensive pretty little box you use to put the stuff in, oh, you don't use that no more, right? Because you recognize that that's going to eat into your profit and that's going to make your business die. Your business cannot survive with you doing it like that. Okay, so that's the first part of survival that you recognize. The second one is you recognize it ain't that easy to find people outside of your immediate connections. Okay. That's the second thing that you recognize. So now what you're doing is you understand that your network is your net worth. So you start going outside of immediate connections and going into the groups that you are in, right? This is when y'all start trying to sell to coworkers, right? You go to the job, you go to your associations, you go to your sororities and your fraternities, right? You go to your church. You start really hitting the network for groups and not individuals to survive as a business. All right. So what you have to do now as a solution to that is you have to broaden and enlarge your network. Okay. So let's go back. Let's make it plain. The key characteristics of this phase, okay, is number one, you recognize that you have to be profitable. So you start looking at the expenses. Okay. Number two, you recognize that you have to dip into this network and it's not that easy. You recognize you need to now start to grow that network. Okay. You got past mom and them, but you didn't get too far past mom and them. Okay. So the challenge is that you need cash flow and you need to expand your customer base. The strategy for achieving that is cost management and strategic marketing planning. Okay. This is where if you did the organic marketing workshop, we know now is where we realize we need tofu, right? We need to make more and more people aware of us, okay? So this involves digital marketing, collaborations, exploring new markets, and so on, okay? So that is the first two phases of our growth stage. I want to know if y'all recognize this stage and are you still in survival phase? Okay. Are you in survival phase? Now, if you read the blog post already, which released yesterday, then you know the next phase is capacity, right? Which is really kind of that first stage of growth, but survival starts to happen where you're just trying to keep a company running. You're not trying to grow, you're trying to survive and sustain. Okay. You're trying to get your footing to where you continuously have some money coming in so that you can feel like you at least have the startings of a business. Okay. Now that transaction, that is, you might as well be a Girl Scout. You got some stuff, you selling some stuff. Ain't no rhyme or reason to it, right? But survival is when you really start to get that knowledge base for your entrepreneurship. This is when you really start, getting that degree in business is with survivors. So I'm going to start with Heather. Heather, do you recognize yourself? And do you see how these phases are going? And what does it help you to know needs to be your next step?
So I feel like I'm definitely out of transactional, right? Like you said, I'm past that. I feel like I am starting to come out of survival, but there still very much have one foot planted there. But I'm also starting to grow into capacity. So I recognize everything in survival. I feel like I was like, oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, that's definitely me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm still doing that.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Kimberly, if you want to unmute before you get to the Dream Funder, did you recognize yourself? Do you see how it's been a recurring theme for it to even be a phase? And do you see a way out?
I'll answer that last one first. I do see a way out. And I think I'm kind of just past that my mama and my family thing and survival mode. Like I'm just trying to really, I'm still in a space of I'm really trying to get it out there, but I know for me that I've not done everything that I should be doing. So I have to put a lot of the fault on myself for it. So
I'm gonna take the fault off of you because basically what's happening is, and this is gonna happen with everybody with a Dream Funder, right? You're going to always hit a phase where you understand that if you did not have the Dream Funder, you could put more time into your business, right? But the problem with that is if you were to quit your Dream Funder and put more time into your business, what you will find is business takes what it takes, and not just money, but time. And what you'll find is your life is going to change drastically without that damn Dream Funder. So we have to look at it differently, right?
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. So we can't say, oh, if I didn't have this, I'd probably be making six figures. It still take what it take. You know what I'm saying? And so we never know what's going to get in the way of what it takes. But that was great, Kimberly. Thank you for sharing that. Tracy, Tracy, absolutely. Yeah. Look, I was coming to you just in time, wasn't it, Tracy? Because Tracy happens to be one of those that quit a Dream Funder not long ago, has the time to put more towards her business, but is probably figuring out it still takes what it takes. It don't just because you got the time, don't make everything just miraculously be what you needed to be. So Tracy, come off the mic and talk about that.
I had a time, but I ain't had it down. I had to go back and get a Dream Funder. But I feel
I
like
had the time, but I didn't have the dime. Come on, Tracy.
I am. I feel like I'm right in still shifting my mindset from transactional, um, going into survival, because I have some aspects of survival, but I'm still that person that in some cases looks at my business like I got the lemonade stand. And I can't do that any longer because it is a business. It's not.
Yes.
And what made me shift, honestly, was quitting the Dream Funder because I had to put my boots on and step in some stuff to actually get in the ins and outs and how I could survive in this thing. So I am coming out of the transactional phase, going into survival, going beyond my sphere right now that I have, and being bold enough and stepping out of my own way, that thing that I was considering fear, and just saying jump in. And so I feel good about that because it has opened the door where now people are calling me, and I was shocked because they want me to counsel them. I ain't no counselor. I said, I'm not a counselor. What you need? But what they were looking for was a coach.
Yes.
And so I was able to sit down and coach them and have that 15-minute um, phase where we talk about what we need and where we can go. And so that turned into a space that trained me to get out of my own way. And now it's connecting me to people that are outside of my circle so that others can see who I am and what I can offer. And I can now engage with people where the transaction, the survival mode can help me go on to the next phase.
Love it. Love it. All right, Glow. Transactional phase stage, survival phase stage. Which one do you identify with the most? And just know, just like they said, you can have one foot, in another and be heading to it. There's always that in between. We learned that from the client journey, right? There's the actual steps, and then there's space in between the steps, going from one to another. So, what did you recognize about what we're talking about today?
So I'm gonna speak on my lot business.
Mm-hmm.
I am in the survival, putting my foot into the transactional. Um, I'm no longer wanting for mama and them to support me because, like you said, that right there, they be like, whatever, I'm gonna come and then probably don't see them. It's more of me um getting clientele and having for them to basically be recurring clients to actually get me to the transactional stage that I see myself, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Thank you for sharing that. Dewana, what have you picked up on from what I'm sharing today about these first two phases of business growth, right? We've seen you grown just in being on the morning show. Let me tell you how every time we pass the mic to you, you're like, yeah, I ain't got nothing. I ain't got nothing. And now today you got answers. You're contemplating. You're even sharing with us as you contemplate. So we've kind of seen some of your growth, but talk about it for us.
Good morning, everybody. And you are absolutely right, Shay. So I am out of transactional. I'm sitting so deep in survival right now. So what I'm working on is just getting more visibility. I've been working for the past week on building, not building, but um, fixing, I guess is a better word, my website and just making it, making it do what it do and just trying to get in front of more people. And my goal this month, as we spoke yesterday, is to work on getting some more clientele. So yeah, I'm way past transaction. I never had mom and them anyway. So
Yep. Yep.
so I'm just in survival and holding on, child.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Right. Dr. Tachi, I don't know how much you heard, but hopefully you heard enough. What do you think about these first two phases of transactional and survival?
They're very nice. Um, so yeah, no, this is really interesting because I'm definitely, because we haven't really launched yet. It's still kind of in the transactional phase, but a little bit beyond that. Um, because and it's interesting because there are different people that I'm working with here. So when you look at viewers or possible viewers, yeah, it's definitely transactional because the people that are, looking at it right now are people that are in the immediate circle. But then it's like a little bit beyond when it comes to creators because it's like, okay, well, now we're here and this is what is not going to happen anymore. This is what, so it's different depending on the different people involved, if that makes sense.
It is. It does make sense to me. Um, okay, cool. That's all the ladies in the studio. We got Demetra over here on the Facebook side. Shawana, I would love to hear about Shawana Kennedy. I would love to hear about your experience with these phases. And Keith, I would love to hear about yours too in the comments over here on the Facebook side. Demetra said, I'm probably in capacity, but also survival, so that there's always a steady flow of clients. Yeah, Demetra, like we said, we could have one foot as we're coming out, but we still feel the effects of where that one foot is, right? She said, I definitely put a lot of hours in once I left the school system. Yep, most definitely. All right. So let me tell you guys that we're going to talk about capacity and then we're going to talk about scale, which are the last two phases for the way that I have created them. If you were to Google phases of business growth, they use other words, they use other descriptions, right? But I know what it is for working with y'all and for going through it myself, right? So I'm not using these words that are more corporate versions. I'm not using the words that is like on average. I'm using what most of us really be feeling, right? So we feel like, oh, it's transactional. We start off as the Girl Scout, right? Then we realize that, hey, if I get these ideas, I like this feeling, I want to do this full time, let me, put a little more time to it. And then we realize is it needs more than time, right? It's going to use up your time, but it needs more than the time. And that's in that survival mode is where we get our best education about ourselves and about our businesses, right? One thing I know about watching these phases, coaching these phases, servicing these phases, being inside of different clients, companies who are in different versions of these phases, and my own company, right? For my company, I am, it's funny because I have two different sides to my business, right? And when the recession hit, I really only had one side, and that was the service side, the fractional COO side. And immediately taking hits in the recession, it took my business from at the end of capacity to I could scale if I wanted to, but I knew that I didn't, right? But I knew what I had to do. If I wanted to scale, all I had to do was create an agency model because I had processes, procedures, and teams and all that kind of stuff. I required that my clients had teams. I didn't need a team, right? But when this recession hit, I immediately spiraled back into survival, right? So one thing I need y'all to understand is you can be in one stage and anything that could happen to put you back into a stage behind or more than a foot. Now you got a shoulder over there, right? So that's why you have to recognize these phases, recognize the obstacles of each of these phases, and recognize how you get back out of those phases, right? Because just like life, your business is going to have ups and downs. Your business actually has a life of its own, right? So it's always growing, it's retracting. And so we have to be ready for that. Okay. So my service side is currently capacity for how I've redrawn it, but my coaching side is now in survival, right? We've been past mama and what coaching side is the one that said mama and would never a client for either one of my sides for real, right? Or if they was, you know how they act, they want it for free, and that's not new. But yes, so my coaching side is in survival, and we are putting in the things in place in the changing climates, right? Because sometimes, right when you think you're about to graduate, the counselor come and tap you on the shoulder and show you how your grade point average is not enough. Okay, so things can be happening. For example, the changing landscape of marketing was a huge one. And for it to happen right along with the recession was crazy, right? And right before that, we had the pandemic. But the pandemic for most businesses, small businesses like us, businesses that were not brick and mortar, we thrived during the pandemic. We got a false sense of security during the pandemic. Everybody was buying during the pandemic, right? So we have to recognize these phases. And what recognizing these phases is also going to help you to do is stop taking things so personal when it is business. Okay? A business goes through levels. And just because you passed a level don't mean you cannot find yourself right back in that level. But you're not in the level now from scratch, from zero. You should be able to recognize stuff. You should be able to know what you need to do to get out of it. And we're going to graduate again. Okay? Now, let me tell you what I wanted to share with you guys. First of all, I have recommended reading. Okay. One of them is We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers. Okay. The other one is The Billionaire Code by Daniel Dawes. And Dawes is spelled D-W-A-S-E. Okay. Now, for both of those books, I got some insider information I want to share with you. Because what I like about both of those books is they basically take your revenue number to put you in a group, not necessarily what's happening. Because they're like, if you're making this number, we know what's happening. Is how both of them are, right? Now, what I know is Rachel Rogers took her method from the Billionaire Code because I recognize the Billionaire Code in it. But she went deeper. So her version has more stuff in it. But let me stop talking around it and start sharing it with you, okay? Rachel Roger has 7 levels to business. Okay. One is all of them she calls Hello One, but her group is called Hello Seven because that's the top, 7-figure. But the first one is the beginner, and that's from 0 to 24,999. Okay. The next one is budding, 25 to 49,999. Okay. Busy Bee is 50K to 99,999. Breadwinner is 100K to 249,999. Boss level is 250,000 to 499,999. Okay. Hello Six, which is badass, is 500,000. We're at $500,000 to 999,999. Right. And of course, Baller or Hello Seven is 1 million and above. Okay. 1 million and above. So those are her 7 levels. And we're going to talk about the first 2 in a minute, but I want to go ahead while we're talking about levels and give you the billionaire code levels. Okay. It's a little different because this dude, he's trying to go to 1 billion, not 1 million. Right. So his first level he calls is the seeker. Okay. And you're going from 0 to 40K. Then he has the starter who goes from 40K to 100K. Then he has the promoter who goes from 100K to 300K. Then he has the builder who goes from 300K to 1 million. Boy, did he jump right there, right? We ain't get to $500,000. He just jumped because he said, look, we going to 1 billion. Ain't nobody got time for this, right? Then the next one is operator, where he goes from 1 million to 3 million. Okay. Then leader from 3 million to 10 million. Owner from 10 million to 30 million. Investor from 30 million to 100 million, and entrepreneur from 100 million plus to the billion. Okay. Now, on the billionaire code, we're going to talk about seeker. That's the 0 to 40K. So these numbers that I'm giving you, these dollar numbers, are revenue coming into your business. It's not profit, it's just revenue. Okay. So from 0 to 40K a year, you're in seeker. Okay. And what he says is with your time, you're dabbling, which means it doesn't have your full focus. You're a dabbler, which means you could have a dream funder or you could just not be taking it as serious. Okay. Your focus should be identity for yourself and identity for your customer. Okay. He said the primary question you should be asking is, how do I stop pressure noise? Okay. All that is how do I get clear? That's really all he's saying. Because pressure comes from when you don't know what to do, so people are telling you, so you're feeling pressure, right? Think about when you were in high school. When you didn't know who you was, you felt peer pressure, right? The biggest hurdle is personal clarity. Who are you as an entrepreneur? What you need is daily habits, routine, daily planning, and setting outcomes. This is why we have our quarterly CEO productivity membership. Okay, shakehannon.com/membership. Check that out. Okay, to graduate from seeker to starter, he says you have decided what to do and are confident enough to tell everyone. So this is where you're coming out of mom and them and you're telling more people if you're going to go back to my levels, right? He said your communication system is personal. Movement is you're discovering what your movement is. You're trying to identify your tribe, and you do it all. You don't have a team. Okay. So that's what he said about the seeker going from 0 to 40K. Now let's go over here to Rachel Rogers. Okay. Because we're going to do 2 of hers. We're going to do the beginner, which is 0 to 24,999. And we're going to do the budding, which is 25K to 49,999. Okay. So what I like about Rachel Rogers, and some of this comes from me being in her Hello 7 club, not just the book, okay? Because she breaks that thing down even more when you're in her club and you're paying per month. You're learning about your levels. You're really getting attention per level. You're really getting coaching per level, okay? So one of the things I like about her is she adds in more stuff for each of her levels. So I want to tell you what she's saying in that first level, what your mindset hurdle is and what your stagnating actions are. Okay. So your mindset hurdle is fear of rejection. which goes in line with what he's saying is you scared to tell other people that you're selling something. Okay. So fear of making an announcement to your personal network that you're building a business, being afraid of making the wrong decision, so you make no decision about the kind of business you are building, overwhelmed by opportunity and indecision. She says the answer to that is recognize your value, earning potential, and start acting on it. Okay. The stagnating actions you're taking are endless research, ideation, and fancy busy work. Interesting. Okay. You're doing more research than you're doing actual business. You're not setting up strong self-care habits. See where she's aligned with him? See where they're aligned with me? Okay. You're not seeking the support of your squad, a business community to help you gain momentum. Okay. And of course, your growth-inducing action is launch your first offer. Do it. Stop trying to perfect. Do it. Okay. Kimberly said that fear thing is real. Let me check this Facebook side, see what y'all saying over here, because I got it covered up by what I'm reading. Okay. Keith said, as a graphic designer, I'm navigating the survival and capacity stages of entrepreneurship. Initially supported by friends and family, I've streamlined my offerings for profitability. See, I told y'all, I know y'all. Now I'm expanding my client base through social media and networking while prioritizing efficiency and cost management. With growing demand, I'm exploring technology and hiring to scale operations while maintaining quality and service experience. Excellence, I'm sorry. So he just did my whole blog in one little paragraph, y'all. He just went through all 4 of the stages. Okay, so love it, love it. Okay, let's go back to Rachel Rogers. Okay, let's go to her level 2 and what the mindset hurdles are. Compare and despair. Okay. Because this is what we do. We finally start telling people, but as we're telling people, we start finding out more about the people who do what we do. Okay. So now you're comparing yourself to other businesses that are more established. Fear and or discomfort with being visible in public. Because since you comparing yourself, you assume everybody else is comparing you, right? So to get a growth mindset, you have to recognize that you already have what you need to build an audience. In other words, your people are out there. Find your people. Okay. Your stagnating actions at this level is shiny object syndrome. Okay. Focusing on appearing more polished and professional, not marketing your service or product consistently. So that first one is you being a perfectionist. Okay. I'm too busy trying to make sure it looks a certain way instead of just putting it out there, which stops you from marketing it like you should. Right. And then not asking for the sale often enough. Okay. Getting frequently distracted with shiny object syndrome. And let me tell you, for us, shiny object syndrome and perfectionism goes together because the things that are shiny that get our attention are all about us making the shit perfect. Okay. And so to go to a growth inducing action, you need to deliver a consistent marketing strategy. All right. So I wonder if this information is helping y'all to understand some stuff, because some of y'all are hard on yourselves. Some of y'all think that some of the things you're going through in business have to do with who you are as a person. No. And so that's going to be one of the important lessons of this week. Number 1, it's not just you. You are not alone. Number 2, business takes what it takes, right? We all have to go through the same things in some form or fashion. It's not because, oh, I waited to this age to get started. It's not because, oh, I still have a dream fund and I don't have enough time. It's not because, oh, I let the dream funder go and I don't have enough money. All of us are going to experience the same stuff, period. They are the stages of growth that are there. I've seen it time and time again with people who have varying ranges of time, with people who have varying ranges of money access. Because at the end of the day, the business don't care who you are. It takes what it takes. Okay. Now, any questions? Because I know that was a lot. I kind of gave y'all a lot of information. And then the question that I asked y'all wasn't that deep, right? I just basically asked you, did you see yourself? But does anybody have any question about how do you get out of the stage that you're in to go to the next stage? Any questions about the information, period? Dewana said it's not personal. It's not, it's business. What you got, Heather?
Okay, so next week, I'm meeting with 2 students at my alma mater to become like my first contract team members. I am excited and terrified at the same time. Editing is not something that I normally market. I just don't really do that. It's because I get referrals from great people like you and Tracy, Dr. Tachi Shawana. Like, I get a lot of referrals, but if I'm really going to start doing this agency model, I feel like I have to start paying it some attention and more intention and give it some intentionality.
Yes.
Okay.
No, keep going.
No, that was I just wanted, like, it was like a thought, but a question, and you answered it.
Yes, you do. And we're going to talk more about that tomorrow because that's capacity.
Yep.
Right? Because right now what you're doing is not really the agency model per se, it's capacity. Right?
Correct.
And so we're going to get in that tomorrow. And as you guys know, you've met my intern or whatever, that's a version of capacity. So we're going to definitely dive into that tomorrow. And then we're going to go into more phases and stages with Rachel Rogers and the Billionaire Code because it's I'm showing you how, you know, the experts are even like, again, even if you were to Google growth stages of small business, you're going to find versions of what we're discussing. So feel free to Google, but all of it is simply, number one, you're not having the problems you're having because you're stupid. You shouldn't be in business. You're not a real entrepreneur. You don't have a real business. None of that monkey brain negative self-talk that you're telling yourself is actually true. And so if you don't learn anything else, I need you to learn that. Because if it were true, then nobody else would be having the problems that you're having. If it were true, there wouldn't be curriculum and stages and ways to come out of this thing. Because it would be just you. Why would anybody else be researching it, right? So that's the real value of this week. I need y'all to understand that there's a certain weight with blaming yourself. There's a certain weight with negative self-talk. And if you get that weight off of you, because entrepreneurship is hard enough as it is. We don't need that extra weight. So I need you to get that extra weight off, recognize and start looking at it more systematically, recognize where you are, and understand that there are formulas to get you out of where you are to where you want to be, period. Right? Just like I can sit here and when I'm talking to y'all, I know who got clarity and structure and who don't. I know who I've given clarity and structure to and who's not following it because there are certain problems that come with those things. And so when you're voicing those problems, I know what you don't have, or I know what you're not working that you do have, right? All of those things are based on the fact that this is how everybody in this particular position react and don't react. The problem they have and don't have. Okay? So yes, I'm excited to keep teaching y'all that. What you got here?
The author's name again?
I hear you talking because you're in the other room, but on here you're cutting in and out.
Can you? Oh, weird. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, and your video is back. Yes.
Okay.
Now I only hear you.
Can you spell
cut your
the author's name for the Billionaire Code again?
Cut your video. Okay, there you go. Now ask it again.
Is that better?
Yes, a little. Go
Can
ahead.
you spell the author's name for the Billionaire Club Code?
I sure can. It's Daniel Dewase. So DWASE.
Thank you.
And the book is called The Billionaire's Code: Secrets of the World's Most Successful Billionaire Investors. I think that's the right one. I'll definitely double check. Because I forgot that I did not put his name on this old ass screenshot that I got. And since he's become popular, other people have been talking about billionaire codes. So I'll double check it. But that's the one that came up for me when I searched this morning. But I forgot a lot of people copied off of him. So I'll double check. What you got, Dewan?
What's the name again?
Daniel Dawes or Dewise. It's in the chat. So DWASE is the last name.
DWASE.
Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna
I'm
double
trying to
check that for you.
I'm trying to put it in Amazon and it's not coming up. DWAS. It's not coming up. It's not coming up on Amazon.
It is look for the book then, The Billionaire's Code.
I looked for that too. It didn't pop up.
Well, hell, it might not be the right one. We'll I'll double check it after this.
Okay.
And then tomorrow I'll definitely have the right one.
Okay.
But Rachel Rogers.
I got that one.
Yeah, but I'm gonna spell it for everybody else.
Okay.
So Rachel is spelled Rachel, and Rogers has a D in it, so it's RODGERS. So let me put that over here. I mean, I've talked to her, so I'm of course. Let me see. Author of We Should All Be Millionaires. And it's a great book. The book is what made me join her club. And it is an Audible, and she does read it herself. In fact, you can damn near tell she was in her living room recording some shit, because some of it just felt like, did you just have a snack or something? Like, what is you doing? But yeah, she's very relatable sometimes. But for reading her book, she's definitely relatable. All right. All right. Any other questions before we end for today? I know that was a lot. It was a lot, especially since we did 2 days in one or 2 parts in one. All right. Well, tomorrow we're going to focus on capacity. Feel free to go to the blog. The blog is at shaycannon.com/graduate. Okay. That's where this week's blog is. So you can take in that information. So I give you a paragraph worth of information, and then I break it down after every paragraph for each level that I created, so that I can make sure that you understood and didn't just have information going over your head. I kind of broke it down to be concise for each one of these points in each level. All right, guys. Demetra said, awesome. Cool. Y'all have a great day. Studio is closing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Have a great day, everybody.